I just bought one of the cleanest Acura Integras I've seen in a very long time. And today I'm going to tell you why with this particular vehicle, it may have been one of the worst car decisions I've ever made. It's time to talk about one of my most recent acquisitions. This is my 1999 Acura Integra LS. This is actually the first Honda product I've ever owned. While this car isn't perfect, it's one of the nicest looking third-gen Integras I've seen in a very long time. After about 20 years on the road, most of these are now beat to hell or didn't survive the Fast and Furious era of tasteless body kits. But overall, it looks super clean, and it only has about 90,000 miles on the odometer. Yes, this is just an LS, so it doesn't have the VTEC motor, yo. But with 140 horsepower, a decently competent and lightweight chassis, and a manual transmission, this thing can be a lot of fun. They sold a ton of these third gens, and this 1999 was nearing the end of the run and sales were starting to taper off. This basic design lasted from model years 1994 to 2001, and this particular one, it just looks really good. A few imperfections here and there, but by and large, an extremely nice looking Integra. And we have to take a look at this interior. It looks brand new. It's got very late 90s looking upholstery. And this is the LS, so you get a leather wrapped steering wheel, leather wrapped shift knob, and everything just works in here. It's kind of amazing comparing this to my 1997 Ford Probe. With that car, all the interior stuff is not working, but in this car, it's like it's brand new. Yeah, I love it. I love it in here. All right, so how can a car that looks this nice turn out to be one of the worst car decisions I've ever made? I think I need to sit down for this. So I bought this Integra sight unseen at an online auction, and you might be saying, Ethan, there's your problem. Never buy a car sight unseen. Well, I've done that before. I bought a Ram 1500 sight unseen at an auction. It was listed as a run and drive vehicle. Got it here and all it needed was a new battery. I got the Ford Probe sight unseen at an online auction, and that car needed a little bit more work, but that is running fine right now. So I figured, well, they didn't have bad luck with two cars. Why don't I try another one? So I bought this one sight unseen. This one is also listed as a run and drive vehicle. I paid about $2 grand for it. It got delivered, and of course it didn't start. You know, I figured probably just a battery. This car only has 90,000 miles or so, and there can't be anything major wrong with it, right? Right? So I slapped a new battery in it, thinking that would do the trick. Kept trying to turn over, but it wouldn't crank. And then I noticed a sticker under the hood. It said a new timing belt had been put in only 100 miles ago, and I was thinking, the car has a new timing belt, why would it only travel 100 miles before it made it to auction? And I started to get a little bit nervous. I checked all the simple things and I still couldn't get it to run, so I brought it to my mechanic. And they quickly determined that the timing belt had not been done properly, and it broke. And if you know anything about these cars, this has the B18B engine in it, and that is an interference engine, which means that when the timing belt breaks, it can very likely damage your engine, and it very likely did in my Integra. Take a little moment right now to cry uncontrollably. Not another one! I keep buying broken cars! So yep, I bought a car with a broken motor. Even though it said run and drive, it wasn't. So then I had to figure, well, what do? I paid $2 grand for this clean Acura Integra with only 90,000 miles on the chassis. It's got a busted motor. How much money do I put into it? So I brought it to the shop and I spent $2,200 to fix this thing. $2,200. They pulled the cylinder head, they sent it out for a rebuild. It's got all new gaskets, they adjusted the valves, new rocker arms, new timing belt, water pump pulleys, tensioners, spark plugs, thermostat. Woo! But I will say, it runs beautifully now. Now you might be thinking, I spent $2,200 to rebuild this motor. Why wouldn't have I just ripped this one out and throw in the B18C in here, which is the VTEC motor? But at the time that I was doing this work, I could not find one of those for any cheaper than $3 grand. And apparently you can actually Frankenstein this motor to have VTEC, and I didn't think of that. I didn't do that, and maybe I should have, but I didn't. Kind of kicking myself a little bit for not going the VTEC route, but I don't know. What would you have done in this situation? Maybe not bought a car sight unseen at an auction? Maybe that? Now, I actually bought this car way back in August, and I'm just making a video about it now because honestly, I'm sort of embarrassed by this whole thing. I'm embarrassed that I kind of screwed up so badly at auction. I'm embarrassed that it cost me so much to get this thing fixed, but in the end, I've got a really nice, clean looking Integra that runs and drives great. So I'm pretty excited, even though the process to get to this point was a bit arduous, but we can all learn some things from my mistakes, can't we? All right, let's go drive this thing to take my mind off of that a little bit. Right off the bat, I can see why people like Hondas. There's something really solid about the construction of this interior. There's no squeaks and rattles. The fit and finish is great. All the switchgear feels really good. I'm glad to finally have a Honda product in my collection. And I'm glad to finally have a car that's not broken in my collection. So I'm just driving this thing around my neighborhood today, but this thing is decently quick for only 140 horsepower. It's not a rocket ship, but there's enough power under the hood for it to be decently fun. So this engine is running like new. It's got cold air conditioning, the power windows work, the sunroof works, the seats are comfortable, there's no rips in the upholstery, the manual transmission shift's really nice, there's not a crack in this dashboard. I mean, that's the reason why I bought this vehicle, because I figured it's in such nice shape. So yeah, it took me $2,200 to get to this point, but at least now I've got a very reliable, very comfortable, really nice driving, somewhat fun vehicle. And as you know, I really do need a vehicle in my fleet that I can actually count on, that will actually start up and get me from point A to point B, because for having 13 cars in my fleet, I'm not sure I have that yet. This might be the one. I feel like the suspension might be a little bit tired. I think that might be the only thing wrong with the car. It might need some new shocks, but that's really the only thing that I can fault with this car right now. And again, I can really see why people like these cars. Just really solid construction. The engine sounds great. It's just really comfortable. It's a great car. And back to the auction stuff, it's really kind of a crapshoot. Unless you're a car dealer and you can actually get into the auctions and see everything that comes down the line, you know, you're kind of taking a big risk. I'm not a car dealer. I just happen to pay for one of those services where you can access Copart auctions. And I figured, you know what? I'm just gonna take some calculated risks and see what I come up with. And in this case, it probably wasn't the most sensible financial move. I could have purchased an Acura Integra for a whole lot less than $4,200. Maybe it wouldn't have looked as nice as this one does in the interior, but I don't know. If I ever wanted to sell this car, would I get $4,200 back for it? What do you think? So I think I'm gonna do a more in-depth review of this car in a couple weeks, because I'm actually really starting to enjoy this thing. I didn't think I was gonna keep it for very long, but this thing is great. So there you have it, my 1999 Acura Integra LS. Somehow there's nothing wrong with this vehicle, which is crazy because there's plenty wrong with all my other vehicles. I think this is maybe the only vehicle in my fleet that actually works properly now. So I'm pretty excited. Yes, it didn't come to me that way, but at least now it's a reliable vehicle, which might be a first for me. It's also pretty crazy that the nicest vehicle in my fleet is 21 years old. So what do you think I should do with this car? Should I put a tasteless body kit on it? Maybe a gigantic wing on the back? Actually, I think I'm gonna do absolutely nothing and actually just relish in the fact that I have a running and driving vehicle without any problems that I'm aware of. So ultimately, this Acura Integra was probably not the worst automotive decision I've ever made. It cost me kind of a lot of money to get the car to this point, but now I can actually have a vehicle that runs and drives and can get me from point A to point B. So that's it for today. I'll have more videos on my fleet of awful vehicles coming soon. I'm working on my Ford Probe, that's coming along nicely. I'm making very slow progress on my Lexus GS300, that's still not quite running right, but I'm making some videos with that as well. And stupid me, I bought another vehicle, it's sitting right over there. I can't tell you about it today, but if you join me on patreon.com/HelloRoad, you'll get to find out about that vehicle before everybody else gets to see it, before I make a video with it. So if you want to see what kind of crap is coming to my driveway, join me there. All right, that's it for today. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.